Welcome to Talking Technology with NCBI Labs, where we believe that technology is the single greatest enabler for people with sight loss and all disabilities. If you are interested in the latest technology news, products, and innovations, then you've come to the right place.
Hello and welcome to Talking Technology, episode number 26. Goodness me, we're at 26 already. Thanks a million to Adela for filling in on the last episode of Talking Technology. I was off. I was enjoying pancakes on that particular Tuesday. It was Pancake Tuesday, so I was treating myself to some pancakes, quietly observing in the background as she did a fantastic job. So thanks, Adela, for filling in. But I'm back in the hot seat and we've got a show packed with awesome content over the next little while. David Nason from the Applevis editorial team will be here to talk about the ARX Vision headset. That's something really cool that we'll be talking about later on. And he'll also be telling us about the S23 Ultra. Wait, an Apple guy telling us about Samsung stuff. Oh boy, that'll be interesting. We'll also be taking a look at the Z Flip4, a modern smart folding smartphone. That'll be fun. That'll be interesting. It's a long time since I've seen a flip phone in the wild, but the Z Flip4, it's there and we'll be talking about it. Daniel has been trying that out for us. And yeah, we'll have tech news and all sorts of other cool stuff along the way too. So welcome along. If you do want to get in touch with us throughout the show, you can send an email to labs@ncbi.ie, or you can use the Q&A panel in Microsoft Teams as always. But before we get into the main topics of today's show, we have some exciting news from Friday night, when we attended the Spider Awards, and John Paul Corcoran, the boss of myself, so JP, where do we start? We were at the Spider Awards. What was going on? Tell us what was happening at the Spider Awards.
Right night, David, last Friday in the Mansion House in Dublin. So we attended the very prestigious Spider Awards. It's an annual event, and these are often known as the Oscars of Ireland's digital industry, which is kind of fitting given that the Oscars are actually only around the corner, aren't they? I think they're all coming up on Sunday night, as far as I know.
And many nominations for Ireland too.
Yes, yeah. So fingers crossed we'll have some wins there. So last Friday night we attended the Spider Awards in Dublin's Mansion House, and we delighted because we took home the award for Best Digital Team. So anyone who's not familiar with the Spider Awards, they're the longest running digital award ceremony in the country. And I'd say they're often dubbed the Oscars of Ireland's digital industry. The categories we were nominated for on Friday of last week were as follows. So we had the nomination for Best App, which was with the My NCBI Smart Hub. So lots of people using the My NCBI Smart Hub on their Amazon or Google smart speakers and availing of the various services through the Smart Hub. So that was one of the nominations. The other ones were Best Use of Disruptive Technology, which was the My NCBI Smart Hub again. We had Best in Universal Design, which was actually the Vision Sports Ireland website, which we supported in developing last year. So definitely worth checking out for anyone who hasn't done already, the VSI website. Best Podcast, which of course was this our own podcast. So maybe
Absolutely.
Next year.
Maybe next year.
Yeah.
We had a worthy winner in the journal.ie's Redacted Lives as well. So credit to them. It's a fantastic podcast.
And then we came away with the Digital Team of the Year award. Now, it wasn't our first win at the Spiders. Last year, we did win the award for Best Remote Team. So thrilled to bits to be able to continue on the success this year and take away an award for Best Digital Team in this case. I think I guess you mentioned there, like with the journal Redacted Lives podcast, we did certainly face a lot of tough competition. So
absolutely, there was tough competition in all the categories. Absolutely,
a lot of big players, who are shortlisted for these awards. So great to get the recognition at such a prestigious event.
It really is. And JP, It wasn't our first win of the day either.
It wasn't. No, I'm glad you mentioned that, Dave, because we should point out that it was earlier in the day that our CTO, Kyran O'Mahony, he won an award for a digital trailblazer at the annual National Digital Awards, and these were held in the Gibson Hotel earlier on Friday. So I have to say full credit to Kyran. I think it's a really much deserved win for him. He does a lot in terms of driving forward the message of digital inclusion and setting up so many new initiatives for service users and of course staff within NCBI as well. So really delighted that he was able to get this award and recognition. It's much deserved. So well done, Kyle, on that.
Absolutely.
And yeah, well, so we'll have our fingers crossed next year. Hopefully we'll be winning the best podcast at the Spiders, David.
We'll certainly try our best, JP. Thanks so much for that summary of the Spider Awards. A fantastic night, it really was.
Certainly was.
So yeah, brilliant, a brilliant celebration, and credit to all the winners as well, because there was great work done across the board in the digital world in Ireland over the last 12 months. So it was a fantastic event and a great night was had by all. So thanks for that, JP. But let's get on with the show, because we have loads of exciting topics to come. And one of those is something really interesting that I've only been looking at really for the first time this morning. And these are the ARX Vision headset, a really cool product. And here to tell us more about it is from the AppleVis editorial team, Mr. David Nason. Hi, David. How are things?
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me on.
Not too bad
and
at all.
Congrats, by the way, on the awards.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. So yeah, the ARX Vision headset. What is this, David? It seems really cool and quite unique too.
Yeah, it's a cool concept. Actually, funnily enough, although you say I'm from the AppleVis editorial team, and that's how they got in touch with us. The product isn't on Apple yet; it's only on Android. So
that's unusual for a VI product, isn't it?
It is, yeah, and I think it's probably to do with the complexities of actually making it work, because it connects via USB-C at the moment to an app. So I suppose the way to think of it is it's in the same kind of area as the likes of Envision glasses, which people may be familiar with, or Orcam, those kind of products. So it's a wearable device designed to help you see and understand, I guess, the world around you using AI. So it's a bit like, or some, having, say, the Seeing AI app or the Envision AI app on a wearable. But it's a little different to, say, Envision. It's and I actually really like this concept. So the likes of those glasses, they're like that. They're glasses around the front of your face, and then they have a camera mounted on the side. But I don't want to wear glasses necessarily, because I don't need to wear glasses.
Sure. Yeah.
So this one is a bit like the Aftershocks Blues kind of headset, if people are familiar with those. The bone conduction headphones. So it's a pair of bone conduction headphones. So the strap is actually around the back of your head, and then you're wearing these bone conduction headphones which sit on your cheekbone to give you sound while leaving your ears open. And then the camera unit is mounted just on the side. So they still look arguably a little ambiguous, because you've got this matchbox size unit on the side of them, but I think they look far less ambiguous than the Envision glasses, for example, would look in my own, although I haven't seen them in person, to be fair, but based on my thoughts on kind of how they kind of look, I kind of like that concept. They also, the difference is, and they would say this is there are positive and negatives to this, I guess, but they're wired, so they use a USB cable into your phone, and the idea of that is that they're supposed to, it means they don't have onboard power, so you don't have to worry about battery, because they're just powered by the phone, and they themselves, the unit itself doesn't need to have any chip or anything in it to the same extent anyway. The phone does the work,
all the processing. Interesting. Well, we'll talk more about your experience of the product in just a minute, but before we do, you did a fantastic video for your YouTube channel, which we're going to get Daniel to play now in a second, but explaining just your first impressions of the product. So let's take a look at what your first thoughts were on the product, and then we'll come back to talk about some of its features.
Hey there, Dave Nason here with my first look at the ARX Vision headset. This is a new wearable device aimed at blind and visually impaired people to help us interact and navigate the world around us through AI. It connects to an app on your smartphone, currently only Android, but they do say that iOS is coming in the future. I'd like to thank the guys over at ARX for sending me this demo unit to try out for a couple of weeks. Really excited to check it out. In this video, I'm literally just taking a quick first impression of the hardware itself, and then I am looking forward to connecting it up to my phone and seeing how it actually works. So this is the headset. here it is. For those who may be familiar with the likes of the AfterShokz bone conduction headphones, this is very much like those. So there's no glasses around the front. So you may be familiar with products like Vision glasses and the Orcam, and this is playing in the same space of those in terms of what it's actually doing in terms of AI, but they've taken a different approach by, instead of having glasses around the front of your face, it is a bone conduction headset that has a camera attachment on the side of it. So it goes around the back of your head. You almost wear it like the opposite way to how you'd wear a pair of glasses. So the band is going around the back of your head, and then the bone conduction earphones sit over your ears, and the speaker pads sit on your cheekbones. So that's how you wear them. And the big difference you'd notice with this versus, say, a pair of something like AfterShokz is that it has this camera unit on the right hand side. It's not huge. I mean, it's big enough, but it's not too bad at all, to be fair. There's a little bit of weight to it, but it's pretty comfortable. I wore them for a couple of minutes there and they seem pretty comfortable. So what you have here is, when you're wearing them, this camera unit will be on your right hand side, and it has 3 tactile buttons, and very tactile. So there's a square, a circle, and a triangle. So and they're really nice, and they have a nice click to them, I must say. So they're quite nice. And then the camera is on the front there, and then around the other side you have a volume rocker as well. And it's it's a plastic unit. It is not too heavy, but it's not super light, but it's not too heavy, and fairly comfortable. There's kind of a rubber on the inside of it. So yeah, I think they look pretty nice. They look pretty good quality. So yeah, good first impression of the hardware itself. The cable, by the way, is a USB-C cable that is coming out of it. So these are not wireless, they are wired. And that's because the hard work, I guess, of the AI is being done by an app on your phone as opposed to on the device itself. And that works much better in a wired way. But this does mean that you don't have to really worry about battery because they're connected to your phone. So you're not worrying about the battery running out, that kind of thing. So that's the hardware, and as I say, it currently connects to Android phones only, but iOS is coming, and there is an instruction manual here with it as well, which is also in Braille, as well as print, and they have some tutorial videos on the website as well to help with getting started. So that's just my first intro video to the ARX Vision headset. If you want to find out more about the headset itself, it's at arx.vision is the website, and I will be posting some more videos and possibly audio about my experiences using this device. Really looking forward to checking it out. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.
And you can check out more of those videos over on Dave's YouTube channel too. So Dave, that was really interesting because those were your first impressions, but now you've had a bit of time to kind of play around with it. So compared to something like Seeing AI, what can it actually do?
So it, in theory, has a lot of the same functions. So it has, your short text. So you just put a piece of text in front of you and it'll start reading what it can see, but also document scanning if you want to do a fuller kind of read of a full page, that kind of thing. Scene recognition, so you can look and say, I see a table with a chair and a monitor on it or something like that. So those kind of features. It also has object recognition. So if you're looking for your laptop or your phone, you can select that, I'm looking for a laptop, and then you move around and it would look and it will beep when it sees one. And facial recognition as well is one that I'm really keen to see get better, because I think that could be really cool. The idea of kind of maybe walking into the canteen at work and saying, I'm looking for a particular person, and would it actually find it? So I think, yeah, those are the kind of features. So a lot of the same kind of things you'd get with Seeing AI, except it's it's wearable.
Interesting. Yeah, that's interesting. So it's powered by an app on the phone. I'm assuming that app is fully accessible, or what's in the app, I should ask, really.
Very, very little at the moment. I think maybe on iOS they're talking about bringing out an app, but as well, but that will do more. But certainly the Android app as it is now, it is just an app to connect. So if you don't have the headset, there's no point downloading the app. It's not like Seeing AI in that sense, or Envision, where you can use the app as an independent,
as a standalone
thing. No, it's only for the product. So if you open the app, it'll just say, please connect your headset. And once you connect the headset, there's a settings button there that you can go in and configure a few little bits, but there's not a huge amount to configure within the app even. It's pretty plug and play in that sense.
Okay. Was there much outside of the manual, which I did notice from your video, seemed to come in at least semi-large print? Was there any like on-device tutorial or anything like that?
Yeah, when you first time you plug it in to a new device, it will offer you a tutorial, so it'll take you through a guide of what the different buttons are, what you use them for. It's a decent tutorial, I think. It gives you gets you started. Saying you use the triangle button to cycle through the modes, and use the circle to select things, and long press the square to go to sleep. Those kinds of things. So it's good. And then there's a volume rocker on the left-hand side as well. So yeah, that worked pretty well. I did have issues with, and they were aware of this issue, that when you plug it in, it should work as a headset for your phone as well. You know what I mean? You should start to hear the screen reader through the headset, but you have to push the volume right up to hear it. It's like it's cutting out a lot of the volume. So I think it is an issue they're aware of and looking at. But that was frustrating because the first time I plugged it in, I couldn't hear anything from the phone. So I thought, okay, this thing isn't working. And it was only when I emailed them for support, they said, oh yeah, keep hitting that volume up button until you can hear it. So that was a bit of an issue, but I'm sure that's something they'll look at.
Have there been any other kind of downsides that you've noticed, or has it been fairly plain sailing for the most part?
In terms of setup, it's been okay. Well, I had a work phone that was a what do they call it? Google Pixel 4a and 4a 5G, and there's some phones that don't work out of the box, and they need an adapter. Even though they have USB-C, it's the wrong USB-C, and it needs an adapter. But they say they'll send you that adapter if you need it, when you're ordering. They're still in a sort of early phase, so they're not in a full kind of market ready kind of phase. I think they are selling them, but I don't know what the process is. I think at the moment the process is when you place an order, they will contact you and check what phone you're using, and if you have a phone that will need the adapter, they'll send it to you.
So it's very custom at this point, kind of. It seems like it's almost not a pre-release product, but it's kind of like in that kind of test concept phase, kind of, by the sounds of it, is it?
Yeah, exactly. And like the wired thing is kind of, there's good and bad to it. You know what I mean? Ideally, I think we'd all prefer a wireless product, but they say that they're able to offer a better product by having it wired, if you know what I mean, in terms of performance. Sure. But I have found the performance still needs an awful lot of work. When I've got other videos on the YouTube there that kind of show me comparing directly, like trying to use short text or trying to use document scanning compared to Seeing AI. And I haven't done videos of it, but I've also tried to compare it to Lookout on the Android side. And they're so snappy. Like the second you put the text in front of them, they're reading. Whereas this one, you're kind of waiting, going, waiting for it to come back with the results. So despite it being connected to the phone, it's still quite slow, and the accuracy isn't. Now, I think there's probably some learning as well in terms of framing it, where to actually place the document and things like that, and to get it in view. But I haven't found the accuracy quite as good as those apps, if I'm completely honest.
So that's interesting then. So we're obviously looking at a product that is in its early stages by the sounds of things. But if I had to push you, would you think that in its current form, it's worth it?
I wouldn't. You're talking about, I think it's nearly €1,500. So it's still, maybe half the price of an Envision glasses. But for me, I wouldn't. And I was excited. I was willing to kind of consider buying one, but now I'm not considering buying one until it gets better, personally now. But I do think it's definitely worth keeping an eye on, because I really like the I like the approach. Admittedly, yeah, like I said, I'd prefer if it was wireless. But aside from that, I like the approach. I like the design of it versus the glasses, that kind of thing. It's a cheaper price point than some of the rivals as well. So I think there's a lot going for it. And I'm speaking to Charles, who's kind of running it. He, you know, the enthusiasm is there. They really want to make this work. But for me, it's not ready to be purchased yet. That's my own opinion, of course.
Sure. And what do you think, for you to spend your own money on it, what do you think it needs? Or do you think if they nailed the functionality that they've got now, do you think it would be worth it? Or do you think it needs more in the long term to be more of a full fleshed out product?
I think it needs a little more as well. So firstly, yeah, they definitely need to nail the core functions like the document reading and short text, because I think they're the ones people would use a lot. You know what I mean? Things like object finding are a little trickier. And I think, you know, what they really need to nail is those kind of more basic functions. And I think they need the likes of product recognition, I think, as well. So you're in your kitchen, you've taken your shopping out of the bag and you just want to quickly recognize what's what. I know you can use short text for that, but I'd like to see them extend that like you have in Seeing AI and Lookout and stuff, whether it's using the barcode or using just other recognition.
Sure.
And I've fed back very strongly that it needs video calling. So I think it needs them to, I need to be able to kind of either make a video call to, you know, select friends or family, or better yet, you know, using things like Be My Eyes and Ira.
Ira,
You know,
yeah.
I think they're in conversations. They're trying to make those things happen, but they haven't happened yet. But for me, that would be crucial as well, because I'm thinking of scenarios again. You're walking down the street, you're looking for a particular shop or whatever the case might be. They're the kind of situations where you don't necessarily want to take your phone out and be holding the expensive phone out in front of you, you know what I mean? And that's where I think the wearable aspect is most powerful. And so I think that is a really important feature to add.
To that point, we've seen a lot of even, you know, mainstream wearable devices include options for example, triggering smart assistants. Does the device have any of those functions, or do you still need to take out the phone for that kind of thing?
I'm not sure if it works with the Hey Google kind of thing, because it is a headset. I haven't tested that if it works in that sense. It does have like voice control itself, so if you don't want to press the buttons to get to the mode, you can just speak to it to get it to switch the mode that you're in. But it doesn't do anything beyond that, like give you the weather or your location or anything like that.
Interesting, yeah. Yeah, it seems like a cool product, but certainly one that's kind of still in the oven, needs a bit of time by the sounds of it.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's worth keeping an eye on.
Interesting. Well, if people do have any questions about the ARX Vision headset, they can throw them in the Q&A panel here on Microsoft Teams, or send an email to labs@ncbi.ie, and we'll continue on, and then we might come back to some of those questions later on in the show if people have them. But another thing you've been doing, Dave, is, and this is clear by the fact that you're even using the ARX Vision headset, is you've gone to the Android side.
I have, yeah. After 13 years.
What happened? I'll hesitate. I don't want to call you a traitor now, but what happened?
I know, it's crazy. And I nearly did it 2 years ago, and I actually pressed the button to order a Samsung S21, I think it would have been at that time, and then I went and panicked and I cancelled the order. I battled at that time, but I went ahead this time. Do you know what? It's the most privileged first world sounding sentence ever to say, I'm just a bit bored and wanted a new challenge or something new to play with. Sure. After years of using the iPhone, I just thought, you know, I like the Samsung hardware. I always have. I think they're nice phones. I just wanted to try it out and give it a shot. And I know TalkBack's come a long way, you know.
So it was the S23 Ultra you got, is it?
No, not the Ultra, just the regular.
Oh, the regular S23. Fair enough then. But what was your first impressions? So we'll go back to the ordering experience. What was the whole thing like? Because we're used to the whole, you know, Apple.com, or in Ireland you might go into Select or CompuB as it was formerly known, or whatever the case may be, and it's always a kind of semi-smooth experience at least. But what was your experience on the Samsung side?
Semi-smooth at best. I didn't enjoy the website. Is one of those like websites muddled through, but I came across issues several times, screen reader accessibility wise, which is really disappointing from a company of Samsung's size and stature. To have accessibility challenges to place an order was really annoying. And I thought I was ordering the lavender one, and the cream one turned up, and I was just like, it's not even worth. It's not even worth kind of going through the hassle of getting it replaced and all that kind of stuff. So I just stuck with the one they gave me. But so the ordering experience, and even I got a confirmation email, but the confirmation email didn't kind of have an expected date in it. So then I was onto them on Twitter, and they kind of just said, "Oh, don't worry, you'll get one when it ships," that kind of thing. So it just felt a little bit like, okay, I don't quite know what's happening here, but I'll trust that it's
just roll with it. Roll with it.
Yeah, but then they had good offers which you don't get from Apple, which is like usually.
Well, this
they
is true.
Just operate differently, but so they said, like, add the Galaxy Buds on, and you'll get 10% off, not just the buds but the phone as well. They've those kind of offers as well, and I did successfully manage to do a trade-in of that old Pixel as well. So
okay,
so some parts.
So setup then. Let's go to the very beginning. So obviously you've everything set up, no doubt, on the iPhone. What iPhone were you coming from, and how were you able to get like your data across and stuff like that? Because switching operating system, that's a big jump in many respects.
Yeah, that was the biggest probably fear I had, was kind of getting across. So getting set up, the actual phone, working was fine. Like when you turn on an iPhone and you triple click the home button or the side button to get VoiceOver to start. With this, it's you press and hold the volume keys together, and after a few seconds, TalkBack will come on. So that was very smooth, and setting it up was just as easy as an iPhone. But getting data across there's a Samsung, Google have one as well if you're buying like a Pixel or a different device. But on the Samsung side, they have an app built in called Samsung Smart Switch, and you can go in there and select what you want to bring across. So you can bring your contacts across, you can bring your photos and your apps. Even to an extent, it'll go and find the same apps. If they're free, it won't download paid apps, but any free apps, you can bring them across if you like. You can bring even your home screen folders and things the way you had them organized. I chose not to do that because I kind of wanted to set it up, because it's a different phone with a different size screen and everything. I just kind of wanted to set up myself, but you can do that. I think WhatsApp was the one that confused me the most, but I managed to get it done. It took me a couple of attempts, but through the Smart Switch app, you can actually get your WhatsApp across, including all of your previous, your history, your chats, your photos, everything that's come through to you, your groups, everything came across as well through Smart Switch. I don't know if there's an option to go back the other way. I guess I might find that out in a year or two.
For like, I'm a VoiceOver user, right? So like, let's say, and admittedly, I'm not too familiar with TalkBack. So if I was to pick up TalkBack now, what would be the first kind of impressions as in, how would I find it different to VoiceOver? What are the core differences? Like, are you still just flicking about, like, it's the same kind of idea, I assume?
The core is the same, yeah. And one thing I'd give them a lot of credit for is they give you a tutorial. So when you first turn on TalkBack the first time, it'll run you through a tutorial of all the basics of how to use it, which is something I think Apple could definitely learn from for new users. So that was great. But at its core, it's flick around right and left or explore the screen, and it'll read what's under your finger, and double tap to select, and the usual stuff. Where you get differences, there's some different gestures. So they don't have the rotor, for example. That one where you which some people like on iOS, some people hate, but they don't have it. But they have one thing I love, and again, it's subjective. I know some people on TalkBack don't like these, but I love they have what I would call multi-directional gestures, one-finger gestures. So you quickly swipe up then down, or left then right in a smooth motion, or they go at right angles. So to go to my home screen, I go up then left in a kind of a smooth motion.
And are those customizable? I'm assuming this is Android, so everything's customizable.
Yep, they're all customizable. So you have pretty much all the same gestures you have on iOS. You have the 2-finger and 3-finger and things like that as well. But yeah, these are customizable. And then one thing they do is, in a sense, any gesture that's available to a sighted or non-TalkBack user that would be like a 1-finger swipe, For talkback, add a finger is basically the rule. So scrolling for a sighted user is 1 finger swipe up or down. For a talkback user, you're swiping up or down with 2 fingers. Or to bring notification center down, it's swipe down with 1 finger from the top. On Android, it's 2 fingers. So that's how they handle some of the gestures as well. So there's some differences, but it's generally very familiar.
So it was relatively easy to kind of to learn, then kind of find yourself at home, kind of.
Pretty much. I wasn't absolutely new to it. I'd played around on and off with Android over the years, like using it as a work phone and things, but it would spend most of the time in the drawer, and every now and then I'd take it out and play with it. So it wasn't absolutely brand new to me, but yeah, largely. But there's definitely some differences and kind of things to get used to. Even like the double tap itself somehow feels slightly different. You kind of a slightly different motion to how the double tap works. It seems it's funny little things like that I noticed.
Yeah. So what then have your overall impressions been? Obviously, when you're so used to iOS, I guess it can seem like a daunting switch to a new operating system. Like, what did you find were the things that you found easy to adapt to, and things maybe you found a little bit more difficult?
I think the basics I find easy, getting around the home screen, setting up a home screen, how you move apps around. They have a lovely way of doing that, and bringing up context menus and things like that. There's a lot of that stuff that I like, and like I say, some of those multi-direction gestures. So they're all brilliant, and it feels. I mean, it should be. It's a new release phone, so it should be snappy, and it is. Things I'm struggling a bit are. What is typing? I just find, for whatever reason, it just doesn't feel as, and even though the rest of the time I find it's responsive, but when it comes to typing on the on-screen keyboard, it just doesn't feel quite as quick and responsive as it is on iOS, and hopefully I'll get used to it, but I'm struggling a bit with that. And it doesn't have the direct touch. So on iOS, you've got 3 typing styles for VoiceOver, whereas TalkBack doesn't have one of them, the direct touch typing it's called, where you just tap the keys and it just... There's not, it has it has the mode where you kind of go to the letter you want and you lift and it types it. It has that, but it doesn't have the one where you can just tap. So that's kind of slowed me down a little bit. Although, so I'm finding I'm using dictation a bit more than I would have before.
And how do you find the dictation? Is it good quality?
Usually, I don't know if it's my accent, but when I try to put a comma in, like the punctuation, it keeps writing the word karma. Every single time. It's driving me crazy.
Maybe it's a sign.
Yeah. So little things like that. But for the most part, the voice recognition is good. And again, bringing Android, you have different choices. So it's like, I don't really like some of the things on this Samsung keyboard, so I download Gboard instead. And I don't really like how Samsung is messing up my dictation. I'll try Google's voice input instead. So that's kind of cool that you can do that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Apps then I'm finding, and again, this isn't entirely Google's fault, of course, but when you download an app and you have the same app is fully accessible on iOS, and then you download it on Android and it's not quite as accessible, that's quite frustrating. Like the Premier League app, I do Fantasy Premier League, and suddenly I'm struggling to actually pick my team on Android in the same app that I could use on iOS. So that's very irritating. And then finding apps you like as well. So on iOS, I absolutely love the podcast app called Overcast. It's a very popular one, really nice interface. And I haven't yet found a podcast app on Android that I actually really love. So I'm still searching.
Yeah, that's interesting. If we can bring in Daniel here, because Daniel, you've also been trying an Android phone of a different sort, because you were playing with the Z Flip4.
I was, yeah.
What was that like?
Yeah, it's interesting, to see a smartphone that you just fold over and it's closed and the screen is gone, and you're left with, basically half the back of a phone, or 3/4 of the back of a phone, and then you have this little panel with just a clock on it, and the two rear view distance cameras. So yeah, it was an interesting concept of the phone. Now I know it has been mooted for a long time. It has been tried before. It didn't really work as good as it should have. But the Zip 4 out of the box, it looked interesting because it is the first time I guess I picked up a smartphone that flips.
Interesting, yeah. And did you find it to be like, in terms of for accessibility, is there anything that you might not get on the phone that, say, Dave has got, for example?
Okay, not in particular. The major difference, right, from an accessibility point of view is, right, so I'm coming from the point of view that I already have a Samsung A71 phone, right? So for me was, what is on this phone, from an accessibility point of view, that makes it better than the A71. And apart from that flip function, which I think for somebody who wants to quickly answer calls or hang up on calls, the fact that you can just open the phone from its fold position if it's ringing and have the call answered, well, it's an option. You can turn that on. And likewise, to end a call, you can just close the phone over again to end a call. If you can think back, before smartphones really took off, there was I think, was it
the slider phone?
Yeah, you had a flip phone and you had a slider phone as well. Sony had a slider phone, so it's harking back to those days. So it's a little bit nostalgic to see, a phone that can bundle up again, but this time it's in, obviously, a smartphone that can do it, and
is it fat when it's folded?
Screen.
Is it fat when it's folded, or is it still kind of seen and aesthetically pleasing?
Yeah, it's aesthetically pleasing. Yeah, obviously it's much thicker because it's it's kind of like getting two phones, cutting them in half and sticking them together. Yeah, but like for somebody who wants to bring this around in their pocket or whatever, yeah, it's definitely good from that point of view. Yeah, but just getting back to the accessibility there, everything else accessible wise. So if you have your talkback, your select to speak, whatever features that you might use on an Android phone, they're going to operate the exact same. It's just really from answering and dismissing call and hanging up on calls is the advantage from an accessibility point of view of going for the Z Flip4.
So Daniel, does it have an outside screen as well? So when it's closed, is there a screen on the outside, and is that accessible? Does that have the same like talkback and zoom and whatever?
It's really just giving you notifications, so the time is on there, and maybe if you had a text message unread, you'll have a symbol there. So now I haven't tried that side of it with the talkback to see. That's actually a good thing for me to test. I didn't test that, but that's the it's kind of just, I don't know if you've come across some of the cases that some snazzy cases out there for smartphones where when you close them over, the time is displayed on, and just notification icons is displayed on a part of the cover. So these are add-on covers that you can get. So yeah, so that's all you really get there on the flats, on the back screen, suppose, if you want to call it that.
Is it when it's open, I'm thinking now for lower vision users, is the screen any bigger than a regular phone to the point where it will make a substantial difference for someone who was, let's say, reading text or watching a video or something like that?
Yeah, so right, the open how to say mode it'll give you a 6.7-inch screen, and so most of your phones out there at the moment are 6.1 to 6.5. So if you're coming from an iPhone 13 or 12 or whatever, you're getting a small bit more on it. You're not.
It's the same as the Max, probably.
Yeah, I think the Max comes in at 6.6, so it's basically the same.
Pretty much. So like you still have all the standard accessibility features that you're going to get under Android, to adjust the text size, colors, you name it. So it's you know, you can override, I suppose, a certain amount by adjusting the text size.
Interesting. Yeah. So would you think, I asked Dave this question earlier, but would you think that that's worth it from an accessibility standpoint? Like, it's a very expensive phone, I believe.
Yeah, it's not. It's north of €1,000, north of €1,100. So
That's just every phone these days.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, any of the good, any of the powerful phones are going to be up at that kind of price, because you're getting 8 gigs of RAM in there. You're getting Snapdragon 8 processor now. For anyone who's into their speeds, they're going to be coming in around, you know, the top processing core is over 3 gigahertz, backed up then by 3 2.75 gigahertz and 4 1.8 gigahertz. So you have 8 octa-core or 8-core processing going on in that chip. So it's very powerful. So in comparison, the main core in the Samsung that I have is a 2.3, and I find that absolutely rapid, you know. So this is really a step on. The camera was a bit of a disappointment to me. The camera is 10 or 12 megapixel. It's much better on the existing Samsung I have. I found the quality, particularly for zoomed up photographs, was better than my existing phone. So for someone who loves being out and about and taking photographs, you know, the countryside and things off in the, you know, off in the distance, that was a little drawback for me.
Okay.
And obviously then, because the battery folds, your battery is, while it'll get you the day at a moderate user, if you were a heavy user on this phone, I would think you would need to be charging it up by the end of the day, you know, before in the evening time, I would guess.
Interesting. Yeah,
yes,
that's an interesting one.
There are a couple of things I found with it. Also, out of the box, there was 2 updates for it. So one of them was to upgrade to Android 13. So somebody getting this phone, yeah, you'll have the option to get Android 13. So you're quite future-proofed, I suppose, from that point of view. One thing I did like was where, if you're in the camera, and you can have the phone at, let's say, a 40. Can you imagine the bend? So you can have it at a 45-degree angle, and the controls, think of it like a laptop where you have your screen up and you have your keyboard control flat on the desk. So you can actually you know, do some video work or photograph work with the phone kind of folded at a 45-degree angle.
And it can support its weight then, can it?
It can, yeah. It can indeed. Yeah.
That's interesting.
So I found that, you know, that was a nice little feature. You know, overall, would I go for it? The only advantage of the accessibility option, I think, is getting that, you know, open the phone to answer, close it down to end the call. Everything else is going to be available across the rest of your Samsung range and accessibility. Like, you can set your existing, David, you could do this with your S23. You can set the power up, or sorry, the volume up button to answer and the power button to end the call, if it was a thing that you were finding the swipe to accept or swipe to reject a call or hang up a call too cumbersome to use. So
there are ways around it.
The problem I've had with the power button is that I'm on a call and I go to lock the screen, I'm accidentally hanging up on people.
Yeah. So. Well, you can disable that.
I've done it like 3 times.
You can disable that, and yeah, you can disable that from happening and revert to using the hang up button itself manually on screen.
It's an interesting one, and I think I'm going to have to, one of these days, I'm going to have to reluctantly try Android. I am a diehard. I'm here. I have a phone with notes. It's an iPhone. I then have the Mac, which is linked to Teams, and then there's an iPad sitting next to me with more notes. So I'm really deep in the Apple ecosystem. So it's good. I don't know whether, I don't know. Were you ever a user of something like the Apple Watch, David?
I'm still using it. Even though
so how does that work?
It's just now it's just a watch to tell me the time and to count my steps, and I do running, so I still use it as my fitness tracker. But I mean, I'm unlikely to buy another Apple Watch until I've decided if I'm staying with Android or moving back to Apple, if that makes sense. But
yeah,
it still works for the basics that I need it for.
And if I was to ask you now, so how long are you in with the device now?
Less than a month, 3 weeks probably.
Okay, well, if I was to ask you now, and I know it's really early days, what would you be thinking? What's the thought process? Are you thinking, Jesus, this is all right, I could stick with this, or are you, I want my iPhone back?
I go back and forth, because obviously you have to make yourself learn new things sometimes, you know what I mean? So, and not get frustrated because something is different. So sometimes I'm like, yeah, I get frustrated, and then I'm like, well, it's different. It's not necessarily worse. Do you know what I mean? But,
yeah.
So it's, I'm definitely planning to stick with it for foreseeable, but like a year from now, yeah, it's possible I'll have switched back. I don't know. I honestly don't know. But I do.
Would you ever get a flip phone?
I don't think I'm too bothered with a flip phone, to be honest.
Fair enough.
I don't really see a benefit to it personally for what I use. I think the fold ones, I don't know if you've seen those, Daniel, they've got the other type that's more like a passport or something that opens out. So you have like a full phone on the outside, and then you open it up and you've got almost a mini tablet. I think those ones maybe are a bit more interesting, but they're also like double price. So that's sometime in my distant future.
Yeah, it's hard to, I suppose we come to this, how do you call it, bump in the fork in the road every so often with new innovations in phones. Like, innovations kind of peaks and troughs, right? You get great innovation coming on for a year or two or three, and this thing kind of just plateaus, and and there's a couple of ideas thrown out in the meantime. You're just going, meh, yeah, I'm not jumping out of my
doesn't grab your attention
for this. Yeah, I'm not jumping out of my skin for this. And then somebody just nails it with a new feature or a new thing that everybody must have, and on we go again, and it kickstarts another year or two or three of great new phones and features coming out. So I thought this, after COVID and all that, I thought this, the flip phone would be the thing, but I'm not sold on it. I'm not sold on it.
It kind of feels to me maybe like a solution that's looking for a problem. If you know that.
Yeah, I can understand that. That would be my kind of first impressions of it too. Like I've seen rumors that Apple is exploring a flip phone or a folding phone, and I'm just like, why? For me, it just doesn't do it, because like if I want to use a big screen, I'll use an iPad, and if I want to use the phone, I'll use the phone, and I've always been happy enough with that. I don't need an iPad that I can fit in my pocket, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it definitely does. I'd agree with those sentiments as well. And it's not to put down the flip phone. Like if someone gave me a present of it, oh yeah, it'd be great. Yeah,
you wouldn't be giving out, like
I wouldn't be giving out, but I would be disappointed with the camera. I would, but that's just me, and like I'm sure 50% of the people out there use the smartphones for totally different features and couldn't care less whether it had a 10 megapixel or 40 megapixel camera.
Sure.
But for me, it's a thing, and for me, that knock at a couple of points for that.
Fair enough. Well, folks, thank you so much for telling us about those. We'll bring in Joe. Joe, will we be switching you over to Android at some stage in the future?
No chance, David. I don't think.
No chance. You're diehard iOS.
unless the iOS accessibility team fall apart or something like that, then maybe I might switch over to Android. But you know, I do think the Android phones are interesting, especially Google Lookout. I've played around with that lately with a couple of service users, and I find Google Lookout as an app made for Android phones is very good, especially for reading documents.
It's brilliant. The one downfall of it is that they sort of don't acknowledge that Ireland exists. So you have to select UK, and then when it comes to products, then I'm finding it's not finding all the products that I would want it to find. But apart from that, I'd agree, though, the actual quality of how it works is brilliant.
Yeah, I think it does Euro currency now as well, yeah?
It does, yeah.
Oh, it does, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't at the start.
It didn't, but funnily enough, it would identify a €5 note as $5 and $10 and so forth. So even though it never officially
it was kind of working.
It did it. Yeah, it did it.
Yeah.
Well, it works properly now.
Yeah.
Interesting, yeah. Dave, was there any like accessibility apps that you are missing from the Apple side?
Actually, one thing, it's accessibility, but it's to do with VoiceOver as well, is you're probably familiar with actions, which are kind of the part of the rotor. So, you know, when you land on an email and you just then swipe up or down or whatever to go to mark, read, or delete, you don't have that on this currently. They have actions a different way where you use a gesture and you get a little pop-up, but it's not as, and I think on the newer Pixel phones, they have got something more like the iOS experience, but it's not widely implemented, and that's the problem. So even like some of Google's own apps aren't implementing it in the way that, say, Apple have. So some of those kind of tasks are a bit more laborious. So I haven't found, I'm looking around different email apps and I haven't found one that I can find 3 or 4 accessible email apps, but including the Gmail app, but none that I could use quite as efficiently as I can.
That makes sense.
Okay, and Dave, what about Google Assistant compared to Siri?
Oh, it's brilliant. Yeah, it's
you prefer
like
it,
I said, like, you know, I was like, oh, what time is the Ireland rugby game? And Siri goes, Siri tells me the World Cup was in New Zealand in 2000, and so I was like, that's not what I asked at all. I asked, hey Google, and she says straight away, Ireland are playing Italy at 3:00 on Sunday. Do you know, that kind of thing?
Yeah.
So,
there's actually a great a clip on YouTube. It's from some Australian radio station where they got 2 ladies in to have a battle of Siri versus Google Assistant. And Google Assistant wiped the floor.
I'd imagine it would. I like Siri, but funnily enough, like the HomePod is the only Apple product that hasn't sold me.
I got rid of mine actually, and that was even I just found it's not reliable enough compared to, say, Alexa or whatever.
Yeah, it's like a snail compared to Alexa. I don't know what was wrong with it. And we've fast internet, so I don't know.
Yeah, sometimes it works great, but I can't really handle this. Sorry, I can't do that right
working
now.
On that.
Working on that. So, I mean, it's not really good enough, I suppose. It must be something to do with the server, I suppose, because maybe the server gets too busy or whatever. But because the products themselves, like it can't be a problem with the hardware. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it must be a server issue.
And in terms of the accessibility apps, like you don't have Seeing AI, and some of the navigation apps.
One.
Yeah, but then again, like we said, Lookout is a fantastic app.
What about Be My Eyes?
Be My Eyes is there, Ira is there, Envision is there. I don't know about, I love VoiceStream Reader and Scanner. I think they might be on Android, but under a different name or something. If anyone knows, please do tell me.
Easy Reader is up there.
I know they used to be there, but maybe they are now.
Yeah. Now Lookout does documents pretty well as well, but I did think VoiceStream Scanner was the best.
Did you notice, David, Google Lookout will do your documents without an internet connection?
I hadn't noticed because I hadn't thought to.
next time you're going into Google Lookout, knock off the Wi-Fi, knock off the mobile data, and give it a shot.
Very impressive.
Yeah. It's all done in the handset. So, you know, for somebody who's kind of on the move a good bit, I think that's a great plus.
And I think for navigation, I'm definitely open to getting ideas as well, because obviously even on iOS, we're losing Soundscape, and then we don't have Blind Square is the other one that I would maybe have substituted in on iOS, but I'm pretty sure that's not on Android either. So
I think the main one on the Android side is Lazarillo, but if I'm being brutally honest, I never found Lazarillo quite as good as a Soundscape. Now I was a fan of Soundscape perhaps more than most, but Yeah, the fact that it's not on Android, but I guess it won't be on iOS soon either. So, it's not necessarily massive selling point at this point.
And what about library books, Dave? Do you read any of those? Do you use any apps in particular?
I don't. I generally just live in Audible, if I'm honest. I probably should be saving myself some money if I tried the libraries, but I haven't done that much.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I'll have to someday maybe, but I think it will be a real challenge for me at this point. I don't know.
We're going to have to tie you. We're going to have to tie you down and put an Android phone in your hand.
Yeah, they'll have to send me an Android work phone. I'm like, no, you will not take my iPhone. But yeah, who knows?
You can go as far as saying it burns when it's in your hand.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe someday. Who knows?
And I mean, I'm still on the Apple Viz team. I'm planning on staying there, and I'm still, I use an iPad every day, and I use a Mac, and all the rest of it. And I'll still be keeping my iPhone as my work phone as well. But trying to resist picking it up and, doing my email on the iPhone. I'm trying to live in the Android world as much as I can, but it's taking a bit of adapting.
Does TalkBack have an Irish accent, and is that something you've missed?
Well, I used Alex on my phone anyway.
Oh, you weren't a Maura fan, no?
I can't stand Maura.
Most people, it's either Maura or Karen. You chose Alex. That's an interesting choice.
I think he's the clearest and easiest to use, or easiest to understand for me anyway. So no, at the moment I'm using the Google engine, which I've switched it from the US to the UK. There's no Irish variant in Google. They have everything else. They even have Indian English, South African English, but they're missing Ireland for whatever reason. But you can download others. So you can download Vocalizer or Acapella or eSpeak or any of these different ones. Now you're paying for the voices, which is a difference.
Yeah, that's one feature I'd love on iOS right there, is the ability to download and pay for voice over voices. Like,
well, it might be.
You have the Apple ones and you have Eloquence ones, but I would love to just get just custom voices.
They've opened it
There's
up,
been
Apple
some
now,
really cool ones.
Yeah, they've opened it up now, Apple, because eSpeak
Sarah
is available now.
Sarah Proc have an Irish one. I think her name is Kira. Yeah.
But
they've opened it up on the iOS side.
Read the Irish language too.
They've opened it up, but not too many developers have picked it up yet. Only eSpeak that I'm aware of has actually taken the opportunity, but it is potentially. I don't know what the contract's like. Is it Vocalizer? Are they the voices that Apple have built in now, or Moira and all those kind of ones?
I'm not sure where they originate from, but yeah.
So I think for them, maybe they're contracted not to, but yeah, potentially others could.
Yeah, I'd love to see just an Irish language one, just for education's sake. Just come to the.
I was telling
iOS platform.
Is it Ronan McGurk was working on the Irish language for eSpeak for NVDA on the PC. So,
with Aber, yeah.
Yeah, so I was telling him about that fact that eSpeak is on iOS now, and I don't know whether that means you can get Irish working or not. But it would definitely be good.
It would be great. Well, listen, a fantastic conversation, and we are going to be having an in-depth, now this was fairly in-depth too, but we'll be having an in-depth discussion on Apple versus Google in the next couple of weeks. It's such a contentious topic. We even have the CTO getting involved. He's apparently very passionate about the subject, which will be fun. But in the meantime, Dave, thank you so much for joining us. A pleasure. And we hope to have you on Talking Technology again soon.
Thanks so much for having me, as always. Thank you.
Thank you. So one more cool little topic for you. We have some tech news. It's time to do some tech news. We haven't done this in a while. Daniel, what's been going on in the world of tech? There's been some interesting bits going on.
Yeah, so just with the release of iOS 16 there a little while back, there's been a few updates to since, and I suppose just to maybe cover a few things that we didn't cover around the time of the release of iOS 16 was that VoiceOver has more languages now. So for anybody out there who's maybe working with our new Ukrainian guests in the country, that Ukrainian language is now available on VoiceOver. So if anybody that's getting an iPhone or has an iPhone and needs the Ukrainian language in voiceover, that's available to them. There's
Really
a couple
cool
of
to
more
see.
couple of more languages there as well that have added. I suppose in current events, this is interesting to us here as well. Also, the auto answer calls setup. It's possible to have your calls automatically answered after a specific incoming duration. So whether you want to state that as 3 seconds, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, or something like that, you can switch them on in the accessibility settings as well. So it might be handy for somebody who might have motor disabilities that answering the phone and getting the swipes right could be a big task. It's possible to set it to automatically answer so they can pick up the handset. You can also have it announce announce who's calling as well, which is great because it alerts you that obviously the phone is calling, but who it is as well. So there are a couple of features that maybe we didn't get to announce before, and it's just nice to say that they're there as well.
Absolutely. And there's an interesting feature, and although we're not sure, we were discussing this morning, we can't say for certain if it's actually showing up in Ireland because it hasn't shown up on the devices that we're using. But there is a feature in some locations, at least, where your phone will now adjust its rate of charging to pull more green energy from the grid, which is a really cool feature, actually. It's causing some controversy because it's on by default. But that's a feature that came in 16.3.1, but it hasn't been showing up in Ireland, which is interesting.
My understanding is it's only in the US at the moment, or maybe North America.
Is it? Okay, good to know. Good to know.
I'd say what it's doing is it's monitoring, the nearby weather conditions. If it's a sunny day, charge at full speed. Or if it's a windy day, charge at full speed. Or if it's cloudy and not windy, right, it's going to take extra long to charge the phone. I would presume that's what they're thinking of.
It's taking information from the grid as well, from like local electricity companies or the grid people running the grid on like where their energy is coming from at different times of the day. Is it clean energy or is it coal burning and that kind of thing? Yeah. So there's a whole thing going on.
Whole feed into it. Yeah. So.
But it hasn't been all good news on the iOS side, because Daniel and Joe, you've both been experiencing crashes. Joe, your wife experienced crashes. What was going on?
Yeah, and same on my own phone as well. So I think it's to do with iPhone SE 2022s, and I've read somewhere 12s and maybe one or two other phones as well. But it's a black screen issue, so the screen goes black and nothing happens, no voiceover feedback or anything like that. But the home button is working. You can feel the response from the home button. Like if the phone has gone totally dead, you wouldn't have any response. But you can feel the home button works.
Feedback,
but I didn't know what was going on, so I went on my good friend Google, and I seen some other people are having the same issue. So the solution anyway to get the phone back working is to reset it. So the reset procedure is press the, and this is on the iPhone SE anyway, 2022, so this worked for me. Press the up volume quickly, then press the down volume, and then hold in the side button until the Apple logo appears on the screen. For somebody with a little bit of vision, they might see the light coming from the Apple logo. If you don't have any vision, I suppose just hold it in for 30 seconds and you'd be hoping something will happen. But there's a second solution as well, if that one doesn't work, which happened to me, that the first solution didn't work. So solution 2 is you have to have it plugged into the charger. You know the phone wasn't dead because you're getting some sort of feedback from the home button, but you have to plug it into the charger, and while it's plugged into the charger, do the same thing. Up volume, down volume, and next step, holding the side button until the logo appears.
Which is your power button, Joe, too.
It's the power button as well, yeah. On the right-hand side of the phone, and hold that in for between 10 and 30 seconds until the logo appears, and then your phone will restart and hopefully start speaking again. Or if you're not a voiceover user, you'll hopefully see the screen.
Yeah. So what I found with mine, and I think it's either the iPhone 11 or 12. I can't remember which one it is. But when I done those steps, I had come up to the restore screen, which is basically a picture on screen telling you to plug your iPhone into your computer and go to the Apple website.
Does it still tell you to plug it into iTunes? That is brutal. In 2023. Wow.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it was looking for iTunes. It was telling me to go to the Apple website, this Apple support website, obviously with the phone connected. So I'm not sure what it was going to do there, because I did not want to go there. I did not want to reset my phone.
Yeah.
And so I just done that procedure again, volume up, volume down, and hold the power button. And on the third attempt, come back. Your iPhone has been updated. So where I found this happening was after downloading and installing the latest iOS update. Now I understand it's not very widespread, it's not happened to everyone, but it has happened to a couple of people.
Yeah, and it was 16.3, and I think 16.3.1 has fixed it, but we can't guarantee that. But look, we'll see.
Good
see
to
what
be
happens.
aware
Only
of
time will tell.
time.
But at least people know for different reasons you might need to reset your phone, and that's how you do it. So look forward, and hopefully it won't happen again. That's all you can do.
I think you're making David happy. He switched to Android when he did.
You got out in good time, David.
I think David has a hand in every pie. He said he has an iPhone for work and an Android for everyday life. So look, we'll see if it's successful and he moves all the way to Android. We'll know it's working.
Yeah, absolutely. You're the soldier up front for us all, David, here.
Sure, it's a bit of fun, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. A cool challenge, though. We'll have you switch into Linux now next or something.
I barely even know what that is. But,
just to stress him out even more.
Yeah, exactly. We'll have him using the Orca screen reader, I think. Is that the screen reader over there, man? Alrighty. Well, listen, that is basically it for Talking Technology this time round. We've got loads of exciting episodes coming up soon, including that episode on Apple versus all things Google. That'll be really interesting. I'll be getting deeply involved in that debate myself, because it'll be a tough one. I am firmly on the Apple side, but who knows? I might be swayed. We'll have to wait and see. But if you do need support on anything technology-wise over the next little while, you can always send us an email to labs@ncbi.ie. And if you want to just browse some technology content online, we do have a brand new NCBI Labs YouTube channel. It's been hanging around now. We've been throwing up some videos. We've done stuff on the Apple Watch, the iPhone. Some of the Talking Technology clips are going up there too, as well as full Talking Technology episodes. So there's loads of regular content going up to that YouTube channel. So do head on over, search for NCBI Labs on YouTube and do subscribe. It's got a blue logo with white writing, so you'll know the difference from the main NCBI channel, which has the white icon with blue writing. So do go subscribe to both those channels and do enjoy the content on the Labs channel as well. We're really working on some really cool new content strands coming down the road too. So really excited to bring that to you. But for now,
just before you go, David,
we've
got two comments in on our Q&A panel. So thanks very much.
Brilliant.
To Dominique for those. First of all, I think it's in relation to David's earlier comment, about switching from Apple to Android. She loves Apple too much, and she finds them very good for accessibility, and VoiceOver is brilliant to use. So absolutely, yeah, great comment, Dominique. And also in reference to our tech news, similar happened with the SE3. Did everything, but plugging in the cable into her computer brought our iPhone back to life again. So thanks very much.
Oh, well, at least it's back to life.
Input,
that's something.
And it's back to life. It's brilliant news. So thanks very much. And, absolutely comment away on our Q&A panel during the events. We have it open for every live event going forward. So back to you, David.
Thank you. I was being bold. I wasn't paying attention there. So thank you, Daniel. He's saving me as always. That's his job right here. I'm as long with many more things saving the day too. So thank you, Daniel, for that. So yeah, that is it for us officially this time. That is it from us for this week. We're back in 2 weeks, same time, same place. So thank you so much for joining us, and we'll be back soon with a new Talking Technology podcast. See you then.
Thanks for listening to the Talking Technology podcast with NCBI Labs. If you would like to support our show, you can visit donate.ncbi.ie. The NCBI Labs Talking Technology podcast is proudly sponsored by IA Labs, the market leader in the provision of digital accessibility services.